Good evening on this Wednesday, January the 17th, 2018 at approximately 10:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And excuse me for my snotty sounding voice. I'm going through a bit of a cold, but still wanted to post a kind of an update video now that our winter storm is finally wrapping up. And boy, is it energized and did it overperform, is putting it mildly, for some certain locations across central North Carolina, which approached about a foot of snow, exceeding a foot in some locations. But the storm is just like the Energizer Bunny and keeps going and going. And usually in North Carolina, when you have things that taper off way too quickly and it's almost kind of disappointing, this storm is still kind of going on. As it's very unique storm in that it was mainly frontal, and there was not like a coastal storm or something that was driving this. Instead, it's a bunch of upper air dynamics and stuff. So some very interesting things that led to the storm. But overall, we are dealing with the after effects of it right now as the snow begins to taper off. And here's a look at the current radar. You can see here, this is the current look, and this is going to go through the day. We had pockets of very heavy snow in Wake, Durham, Orange, Alamance, Chatham County, and then that back edge is finally worn off. But as we go toward the later scans of the radar here, you can see that right about here, you can see these other snow squalls beginning to form. And actually, I can shorten this radar so that we only see those squalls and nothing more. And these little squalls, it's probably not going to result in much more accumulating snow. This is all accumulating snow up here, is up in Halifax, Edgecombe, and Northampton County up here, maybe about an additional inch or so, but that's also beginning to kind of fizzle out up here, as you can see. But a couple of these little snow squalls just now exiting Guilford County, getting into the Burlington area, just getting out of Sanford for this snowy area down here, kind of approaching Harnett County, and then over in parts where they've already had 10, 11, 12 inches of snow, maybe an additional couple tenths of an inch or maybe even a half inch in some of these more intense little snow squalls. But overall, this will all begin to taper off around the midnight into the wee hours of tomorrow morning, and we'll wake up to beautiful blue clear skies and a very thick blanket of snow on the ground, averaging anywhere about a foot of snow in this area. And then we had several inches, 5, 6, 7 inches on the Wake and Durham County line. In my location here, just southwest or southeast of Raleigh, I should say, about 4 to 5 inches, and then over in the Triad you had 6 inches. So a very healthy, formidable snowstorm for many areas in here, and luckily that it was just a snowstorm and not anything more. But it still has resulted in some power outages. But before I discuss that, I want to give a public service announcement here that is one of my biggest pet peeves and is actually extremely dangerous. It's to, if you have to commute tomorrow, clean the snow off the top of your car. I understand that it's above your head sometimes and it's hard to do, but do your best to clean off as much as you can, because if you go on the interstate or a road where you're going very quickly and that snow melts and dislodges from the top of your car, that can quickly fly back behind you, and especially overnight when we're going to get temperatures so low as they are, it's going to freeze and become just a sheet of ice that flies off of your car and can do something like this. This is an image that I found from a PBS article not long ago, actually a result of ice or snow on top of someone's car that had frozen into a sheet of ice and flew off on the interstate and caused this kind of damage, and can obviously cause severe injury to anyone who is inside this vehicle. But just make sure that you do the best you can to clean off as much of your car as you do. I understand it's hard to do, but get someone to help you, or think of some innovative way to get the snow off your car, because that's extremely dangerous, and you're not doing your service as an offensive driver if you have a sheet of ice on top of your car that could potentially cause some major issues if it flies off of your car and affects the drivers behind you. But anyway, besides that, I wanted to get that in because that's very important, and sometimes it's easily forgotten and you get in a rush, but just make sure you do the best you can to clean that off. Aside from that, the current problems we're facing are the power outages here. So here's a look from Duke Energy Progress's power map, and definitely not as bad as it could be, but still some people who are very unfortunate who do not have electricity tonight and who are dealing with the cold temperatures. And it looks like Montgomery County, Lee County, Chatham, Durham, and Orange County are the unlucky counties right now with the highest number of outages. I think Durham County, about 5,500 or so, maybe 5,600 customers affected. So in Orange County, 2,700, Chatham County, about 3,000, Lee County, 1,700, and 1,400 Montgomery County, Wake County seeing, just under 1,000, and a couple hundred in Moore County. This says one customer affected, but that could be a lot of different things. But overall, mainly this is because of that snow weighing down on trees, probably breaking and snapping on power lines. You may notice the wind picked up, partially due to the strengthening system that has caused the snow to kind of persist and go on. and the winds will continue overnight and lead to very cool wind chills tomorrow morning. And that is a big concern because not only is the snow going to taper off overnight, but the skies are going to clear out. It's going to get extremely cold, especially relatively cold for this area. About the temperatures we were feeling a couple weeks ago, that will return briefly for one night, and we'll have wind chill values with that wind bitterly cold, anywhere from about 0 to 5 to 10 degrees in some of the warmer locations, but most areas will probably be below 5 for their wind chills in the morning, which is a very uncomfortable weather, and that's why most locations have either closed school because the roads are treacherous, but also because it will just be bitterly cold, and that will quickly move out, and we'll have a very nice weekend, and we'll be back into the 50s and 60s. So you have to love that dynamic of going from 6-7 inches of snow to 60-70 degrees. So that is something to look forward to. And speaking of those temperatures, I wonder if I can get over to here. Doesn't look like I can. Okay, anyway, I'll move on from that and go back to our radar here to show you what was going on. And this is just a current look again, those bands going on. As that continues to do so, that might add a couple to our totals. And our totals so far, this is looking at the National Weather Service local storm report viewer, and there's a bunch of numbers right here that you can't really make out, but kind of go by a couple regions here to see what was going on. And here in the Triad, you see a 7. These are all representative of snowfall totals. You see anywhere from 4 to 7. A very healthy amount for most of the Triad. It looks like maybe a little bit less down here in Davidson County. But this is also the edge of the National Weather Service Raleigh's forecast area right here, so that's why you don't see any in Davie County or Yadkin County here. But Greensboro, probably averaging about 7 inches. Winston-Salem, maybe 4 or 5 here in downtown, and then as you approach the Guilford County line, maybe 6 or 7 into Burlington. And this is really the sweet spot of the system. You see a couple of double digits here. You see a 10, looks like a 10.5, an 11 up here in Rougemont and Bahama in Durham County. I know they reported up to a foot right here in Chatham County. So this is certainly the sweet spot of the storm, where it was snowing well into the early morning this morning. I woke up and about 6 a.m. and looked at the radar, and it was already snowing in those locations, and it's been snowing for about 14 or 15 hours. So that's certainly understandable how they picked up about a foot of snow or so in those locations. And then down into Sanford and Harnett County, averaging about 5 inches, maybe 3 or 4 in northern Harnett County, and Wake County averaging maybe 5, 6, 7 over here, 2 to 4 in the eastern part of the county. My location, that's actually my report right there, of 4.7 inches north of Clayton, and then up here in Franklin County. But there's a very sharp gradient cutoff right here as you go along the I-95 corridor, kind of as suspected and kind of as modeled, where it kind of lost its gusto and stopped producing that accumulating snow there, and it just didn't quite get there, and the models picked up on that kind of fizzling out, and that's exactly what happened, and that's what left Cumberland County and Sampson County down here without much of anything except a dusting. But quickly you have this huge gradient of snow, and that'll be reflected in the snowfall accumulation maps we'll see in the coming days as these numbers are finalized and analyzed. But some very disappointed people along this I-95 corridor, but certainly some surprised people where you picked up anywhere of that. And I'm just curious here to, if I sort this descending, so yeah, it looks like the maximum was about a foot in Chatham, Durham, and Orange counties, getting that 11-inch report in Franklin County as well. So this is certainly the hot spot here for this winter storm. They lucked out, or unlucked out, however you perceive the snow, but that's what has happened, and that's the storm. It's the way that the snow fell, and certainly a very healthy system. So I want to go on now and maybe look at this. Yes, so speaking of tomorrow and what's going to happen with our temperatures, I was trying to show this temperature trend a second ago, a graph I was going to show you, but it's not letting me click it for some reason. I think the site's frozen. But onto this is the HRRR medium, the HRRR model, I should say, high resolution rapid refresh. And this is showing kind of what we can expect through at least lunchtime, noon tomorrow, and in terms of melting in the snow. So this is about right now. Actually, this is about right now. We're in the low 20s, and then overnight we're going to get very cold. That snowpack's going to help to get even colder, and it looks like we're going to bottom out right about here is maybe 9 and 10 Z, about 5 or 6 a.m. or something like that. Going to be a very, very cold, down into the teens. Maybe even lower in the more rural spots, and then you're going to have the wind on top of that, which is going to create those wind chills that are going to just be so bitterly cold. So be sure to layer up if you go and take any pictures of the sunrise in the snow. It's going to be very, very cold. So make sure you are safe with that. But even if we go into here's 7 a.m. and then 8, 9, 11 a.m. and then 12 p.m. noon is when we finally break above freezing and finally get a little bit warmer by the early afternoon tomorrow. And what's important is you can still have melting if you're below freezing. It's like that sun angle, and luckily we'll have clear skies tomorrow so we can get the sun beating down on some of those roads to melt that. But just remember that there's still going to be ice on the roads. That's the main reason I'm showing you this until at least mid-morning or at least into early afternoon. Temperatures are still going to be below, so even though it may be melting, there could still be patchy ice. So that is certainly a big concern for any travel. But after that, I can't show you this graph, but you'll just have to take my word for it that we're going to warm up and get into tomorrow. Will still be a chilly day. It'll probably top out about in the upper 30s, but then on Friday we will warm up nicely, and then into Saturday up into the 50s, right around a normal high temperature, which is a 51 for this time of year. And we'll actually warm up very nicely, and you will never know that we had a snowstorm 2 or 3 days prior. So it'll warm up very nicely. That snow will definitely start to really evaporate and melt by Saturday, and it'll finally begin to clear out to where we do not have any more road problems, and we will not get below freezing for at least about a week or so, it looks. So for some time we'll be above freezing, which is a very welcome change, I think, for many of us who are not fans of the cold weather and who have not enjoyed this very cold January. It's been extraordinarily cold, record cold in some aspects, and we'll have to see how the month finishes out. But it's been very cold indeed. I think everyone can relate to that. So that's about it. I'll leave this with the radar here to see what these snow squalls are doing here, and it looks like they're still just slowly making their way. And so don't be surprised if we pick up a couple extra tenths of an inch of snow for that. The triad looks like you're really winding down now, and the triangle maybe has a couple more hours, maybe 3 or 4 hours or so of these little intermittent snow squalls and flurries. But overall, it looks like our winter storm is winding down, and I will have an analysis video kind of looking at what happened and what made this storm tick, what made it overperform, and I plan on doing that tomorrow, and also taking some pictures of the snow with the Carolina blue sky. So that should be very interesting, and feel free to submit any photos or shoot me a message on Facebook with any photos, and I might put together an album or something on my Facebook page to commemorate this storm and the snow it's left us with. So I hope you stay warm, hope you stay safe. If you have any questions, feel free to message me on Facebook. You can tweet me on Twitter at AndrewsWXCenter, or you can send me a message on YouTube or send me an email at andrewswxcenter@gmail.com. But for now, just stay safe. Continue to send in your snow reports to the National Weather Service, or send them to me and I can pass them along. And feel free to post any photos of the snow. And for tonight, stay warm, and I will see you on tomorrow's video with some analysis of this storm. All right, thanks.